Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay.
No problem. Welcome back.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So we were talking about. Let me bring the window back on. Okay. I have a lot of windows, so you might see that's gonna throw you off. I'm gonna share my screen here shortly. Okay. So back here. I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay, so we were talking about different types of how you can declare and realize your CSS files. We have the inline, we have the internal, and then we have the external. The external is this one right here. That's how you'll be able to declare. But when you bring it, you have to use the word link as a tag in HTML. But remember, when you do the declaration or you do your CSS file, it has to be purely CSS. And like they're saying here, it does not have to contain any HTML. And it must be saved as CSS, which is cascading style sheet with that extension. Okay, and if we did, this is what we will be having here. So this is just a very simple file. We say it's going to be a body. In that body, we want it to be a certain background. So we have to, in CSS, this is how you write the background in full. And then for baby powder, that's the background color. And then the HTML is going to be HTML1. And you're gonna have every HTML1 has to have color blue. And every P1, every P, which is a paragraph, will all be color red. Okay, so let me go back here. We did something like that, but you see, since we rebooted, it changed. But now we're gonna go back here and run this one, but we're gonna do the changes again. So it's, if I do that without this file, I completely cut it. If I run, look what's gonna happen on the right. Okay, so this will be the determinant. This one is determining what is supposed to be here. And that file here, it's saved, it has to be either saved within the same directory or somewhere where we can be able to link to it. Okay. So now if we run it again, it's gonna change. So let's go ahead and run it. Any change you want to make in as far as the attribute, the color and all that, it has to be in this file. And that file, right now you cannot see it because it's actually somewhere it can be read from. If you are doing it in your own environment, you will probably need to be able to bring it the way you want to bring it. It can be absolute URL, or it can be within whichever way you can do that. But of course, that's going to be your decision to make. Okay, so we come here. Now, we never mentioned colors as we were talking HTML. There are several ways we can do colors. In CSS, we have CSS colors, we have CSS fonts, and then we have the sizes. Now, the color will be, say, for example, the primary colors, the blue, the red, and all that. But there are so many other colors which you can determine in HTML. The font will be different font. Is it Arial? Is it Times New Roman? Or stuff like that. The size of that font, you can also make it happen. You want it to be small or very small, or you want it to be big or very big. Okay, so here, based on what we want, we can say we want every H1 we are going to have in the document to have blue color, and the font family has to be Verdana, and the font size, we want it to be 300%, which is pretty large. Okay, and then we say for every paragraph in the document, we want it to be declared red. The font family will be Courier, and the font size is going to be 160%. So let's see how that works. And then we can also manipulate that if you want. At least this one, we're using inline, we're using internal CSS, so it's easy to change in this W3 schools. So if you look on the right, that's what you get when you run the thing you run on the left. Okay, what if we change this one to 500? We run it again, look at what it did. We can change it to 400, run it again, see what it did. And then we can also change the blue. What if we change the blue to red? And then we run it again, look at what it did. Okay, now all the piece, which is for paragraph, they are going to be declared red, but this one we are going to make it blue. And then still maintain the same font type or the font family, but we want the size to also remain 160. So we run it, look at what it did. So that's how you can actually make your work look the way you want it, by basically styling it and formatting it. What if we say we would like to have, let's say, H2, all the H2s are going to be ladies, and the color is going to be pink. Okay. And all the H3s are going to be men. The color is going to be blue. Okay. Okay. So we come here and then we basically run it. When you run, it's not going to change anything. Look. But we want to be able to affect the changes down here. So we go up. Remember, we have to do that. We have to do that. So for H2 and H3, we copy that, paste, copy again, paste, and then we just basically we just change this 2, and then we change that to 3. And then we say, if it's pink, it has to be for the ladies. So H2, we change it to be color to be pink. And then for all the men, it's going to be blue. Okay. Then we run, look on the right. Probably didn't do exactly what we wanted to do. So H3, it has to be changed here. Which I forgot to do that. So let's see let's see what happens on the right. Okay. All right. Any question, any new ideas we can inject into this? Are we still together? How you guys feeling? You feel like you can now conquer the world with your new CSS skills?
A question.
Yeah, please.
Okay, for example, if we decide to use div, like for every paragraph we use div, then we bring in the the attributes. Like let's say ID is equal to that, then instead of using the H1, let's say we use the corresponding ID
Mm-hmm.
to track that particular element, HTML element we have defined on the body, so that we just use those the symbol for class and ID, rather than using these the H1 and H2. Can that still also work?
Okay. To answer your question, I believe it can work, but I would like to see you experiment it and then share with me because I think it can work.
Yes, yes, yes.
If it's just how you divide paragraph or how you divide your content, and then div, you can also inject your ID in there based on what you declared in your CSS style sheet. So when you come into div will be like here. Look, for example, look at my screen, yeah? I can
Yes.
say, I just want to make this a div, okay? Okay. And then I say, this div, this particular div, I would like it to be able to be centered. Okay. I say div, and then I say align, and then I say equals to, and then I can put that, and then I close the tag, then I come and then I say, how do I want to align it? Say we want it to be centered. That's it. So let's go ahead and see what it does. Hopefully it's going to work. Let's see. You see, it's centered now. So you can use your div to be able to even be like a container to other divs or a container to other tags. Whatever that div does, based on the attribute, it has to be borrowed from the CSS. How do you want to style it? For example, this one we can decide you don't want it to be that big. You can just say let it be 200. And then we also say for the ladies, also we don't want it to be big. Like let's just make it 200. And then we do it again. Okay. So you see how it's coming up. So to your question, John, it's possible. But again, I would rather you try and then see where you can go wrong and then you correct it. So some of the thought process, I might not have thought of it, but I know that it's possible, but I need again to try to be able to see if it's working. Did that answer you? Did that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? Anybody else? Now, you might be wondering, and I'll be wondering too, where is this taking us? What is this supposed to mean? Like, is this going to be anything of any value to me as a Python programmer or as a data analyst? Now, when we come to that, we are going to talk of other libraries. One of the libraries, or at least three of them we'll be using. One will be Beautiful Soup. Another will be Scrappy. Another one will be Selenium. Now, for example, Beautiful Soup, you can tell it to go into a website, somebody's website, and then you tell it, I only need you to get the contents of what is in the H1. You go out to Nation Media website and grab for me all the H1 contents. Or I want you to only give me the contents which are enclosed within P, as in paragraphs. Or I want you to just go and do a combination of all this, but in addition to that, I would like you to give me the edge tools too. Based on what you want, it will go and then bring it, and then how you program it, it can write it to, let's say, a file or a CSS file, or you can say, once you bring it, go ahead and format it and then again publish it to a different website. So I used an example whereby you are trying to be an entrepreneur and you're trying to come up with a web page, which is going to be for selling, let's say, items which you know very well you probably don't have, but they might be existing at Amazon, or they could be existing on eBay or any other website. All you need the pictures, that's the IMGs, of course, enclosed in CRC. And then you need, for example, those pictures, now we call them the images. Go grab the images and bring them and save them. Every image I want you to save in my local drive, in the C drive folder known as images, and then send it again. Go grab all the prices. Every price will be within a price tag. So you have to go into the website to see how they structure their code to instruct your web crawler to go out there and specifically just grab what you're looking for. So once that's done, then you'll be able to format your website the way you want it with your own pricing without necessarily having Amazon or eBay's inventory. Now, how are you gonna say supply your products to your customers will be on you. But what you need is to be able to have a website with the content, but you borrow the content from Amazon. So maybe when they order your product, you tell them it's going to take up to 2 weeks. Now your product, when we go to Amazon, it's most likely like $3, but you might be selling $5, but it takes 2 weeks because you have to, when we order, you go get the same product from Amazon, and then once you bring it, then you ship it to the customer, but then you take the difference. I don't know if that's a good concept, but that's one way of looking at it. Okay. So that's why we actually try to learn HTML and CSS and how it can come and help us in doing what we need to do. So we go back again. We have 3 ways of doing it: inline, internal, and external files. So towards the end of this session, towards the end of our advanced Python programming, there'll be some projects which will require you to understand HTML. There'll be a language, it's a framework, which we call Django, and there's another one we call Flask, which we will be able to use to design a web page. So Lucy and Monica, they probably did that, and they're still working on it. So it's very involving, but understandably, it's a good thing to do. Okay, so we go back here. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
You guys are able to see the blue HTML CSS crash course? Okay. All right, so this is what we did. Sometimes the content or the outcome might not look as you want. If you're really in doubt, you go back and check your spelling. Maybe the browser might not be understanding some of the commands you give it. Like what we did, our content did not come the way it's showing here. But that's okay. You can always make it happen. Okay, so we come here. We did this. We did internal. Basically, we what we needed to do so that we can see what we needed to see. Now we are here, which is formatting. We did the P for paragraph. These are legends. These are additional stuff. Some of them we might not be able to cover, but if you get time, please go ahead and give them a try. Give them a try so you see how it comes out. When you say field set and field set, then inside, then you can come back with a box. Let me show you how this can come out real quick based on what we did before. You can. We can go ahead and just slot this one in somewhere here. And then see how it works. So the name of the file is content. Always save it before you start running around that your program is not running. Okay. Save that. And then now that the name is the content, so we come back here. Then I'm gonna go ahead and bring it. You see what it does? That's exactly what it's supposed to do. So in certain cases, you might need to style it. So you make sure these corners are smooth. And this one is just short enough for you to be able to work with. Now, let me share the code on the left. So you see what the code did. So here, you can create more stuff. And create more stuff here. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Okay. Then we just go ahead and save it again. Refresh. Look at what it is. So you can make your website the way you want. Beautiful and very consistent. Okay, so that's one way of doing the structure. That's the structure formatting, and then you can make it beautiful. All right, so having said that, go to the next one. Okay, style sheet. So again, this will be just repetition. This is how you can comment your style sheet code. Just put star, and then a slash dot, and then a slash. John, can you mute? Mute, please. Okay. So we have a star, we have a slash star, and then the name of whatever the thing you want to go ahead and comment out. When you comment, that program is not going to be executed by the browser, but it helps in documenting. Okay. So here we have like what you do in CSS file, a list of tags. So this is a tag name. If you remember, we did that here. This is probably different, but the same thing. But see, these are the properties. So we declare that each and every declaration has the properties, and then it has a tag name. Okay, a good example will be this one. Probably not this one. Let's see. This one. These are the tags, and these are the property names. And this basically affects this one down. So when you see that, it's exactly what they mentioned in here. Okay. So you have a lot of attributes to master. You need to understand what the font family is, and we have a lot of them, including what is not even existing in this particular documentation. We have Arial, we have Helvetica, we have Helvetica new, whatever that is, and then we have sans serif, and then we have so many. Do you want it bold? Do you want it a different size? Is the font variant normal or is it italics? Is it like you can have a lot of whatever you see? And then the font weight. The weight is whether it's thick or slim. And then the line height, of course, this in pixels. So if we did this, let's say we did that, okay? Let's go ahead and just copy this the way it is. And then we come into our example here, okay? Now, instead of having this one, I want to comment it. How do I comment that? I just do that. Okay? And then instead of using what they gave us, we are going to inject our own thing. Always try to make your work beautiful to read and understand. Now, our H1 here will be taking the properties of this. Let's see if that works. Yes, did. Did you guys see the change?
Yeah.
You didn't see the change, did you? Okay, you guys are so quiet, so scary. Okay. Let me go back here. We're gonna run it again, but this time around, it's gonna go back to the original because you don't have H1 yet. I mean H2 yet. So we run that H2. Now we go back here and then declare H2. Let's go ahead and declare H2. We call it the ladies. So the ladies in the house. Okay. So H2. H2. Run it again. Look on your right what happens. That's it. Now, if you want, you can change the color here. You can change your variables like the font weight. You can change the line height, the font style, size, and then the font color if you want. Are we together?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Now, if you wanted like to change the solid, let's say we're gonna take, this is for P. So we come here and then we say, this is what we have for P as in the paragraph. P will be there, but I can say, I can go ahead and use a tag, okay? And then come back here. And then in here, we can add another attribute. So we want the border to be 2 pixels and make the border solid power blue. So let's see what it does on the right. It might not be visible because this is already blue, but let's see what it does. Okay, you just change it. If you look, you just change it to something else. So let's say we make it 5. Look what happens on the right. Change it. So that's how you can add attributes, but you have to understand the syntax. The syntax. Now, this is the syntax of CSS. And then you also want to master with those attributes, what comes with them, how do they affect? So you will have to practice this. This is something you have to keep on doing to understand. Okay.
Question.
Okay. Question, yeah, go ahead.
Go back to the VS Code. Okay, on there where you have the H2 and the curly brackets, does it matter which one goes on top or just however you write them?
On like H2 and
Uh-huh.
one.
No, so on the H2 inside, so the font family, font size, does it matter if
Oh,
the
this
line height is on top? Yeah.
it does matter.
Okay.
It does matter. All they'll be treated as a block.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to see, we can do that. We'll move this one here. And then we can bring it back down there. And then maybe bring this one up. But sometimes it depends on how your thought process goes. Like, hey, I was thinking of doing this. And then just make sure you make them beautiful and sensible.
Okay.
Okay, so we come here and then let's go ahead and run. Look on the right, what happens. It did not change anything.
Okay.
So order here doesn't matter.
All right.
All this being treated as one block, so long as they're within your curly brackets.
Okay.
Now, if you needed, say, for example, to do, let's say, H2, H3, you can do H4. Those are going to be the properties. You can say div, you want something to do with very specific to your divs. You can do that too. Okay. All right, so here we come. As you can see, that's already taken care of. Now, suppose that we want all quotes on our web pages to have an italic font. This is what you probably need to do. So you can block all the quotes. You know, like the quote, every quote is going to be having that italic block. So we can do that. Okay. And I again, I still encourage you. Some of this will be, we cannot go through each and every one of them, but we just did the overview. You also need to go and understand the tags in HTML and then understand the attributes in CSS. And then get to know, how do I need to declare it? Do I need to put it inline, internal, or external? Okay. So if you did, let's say you want to start a newspaper, and you really like the contents of BBC, you like the contents of CNN, you also like the contents of New York Times and Wall Street Journal. You sometimes, once in a while, you go to Nation, you see some good stuff. You want to have some things from Africa. You can create a program which can go out, let's say, every 3 in the morning. Grab all the contents of BBC, CNN, Wall Street, come with some stuff from Nation, and then come and dump them. And then based on how you format it, that code, you will be able to come in a step-by-step refined code which you can actually format and then put on your website without sending out reporters, so long as it's not plagiarism, like you taking exactly what somebody wrote. But you just come with the headers, the head points, and then you say, whatever I saw on BBC was very similar to the story I saw on CNN. Therefore, that's going to be a duplicate. So I just want to inject some words which are very unique to the description we have. So of course, there'll be some element of somebody have to go in and make sure it's looking good. But the heavy lifting has been done for you. You go do web scraping with your beautiful soup. You go out there and then you grab it, you bring it, put it in a folder with all the images, and then you're ready to go. Okay? So that's where you will need to understand how this works. So we know when we come into a web page, we look at that. We know exactly what this is all about. This one is just a content, and that content has a character set of ISO. That's the International Standard Organization. For HTML, it has to be 8859-1. So when we declare that, HTML will be looking for that standard. So the standard is more or less on the character set. Is it English? Is it American English or British English? Is it Canadian English, or let's say it's Canadian? Okay, then Canadian and American will probably be on the same page. Is it French? There are different types of French or French-speaking countries. You could be somewhere in France, but you don't speak the exact same dialect as probably those people in Canada. So that's why this is very special, the character set. One character might not be the same, like in Swahili. You might need some special characters, which you might be able to share only with the Spanish language, but they might not be available in English or in any other language. So that's where the character set comes in. So as you can see, this is just the same thing. Okay. This is a quote. Now let's go ahead and run this one. Let's see what it does. Keep on talking about this quote thing. Copy that. Let's bring it into our code. Okay. And then here, we're going to put it just below the field set. Now, when we do that, remember we just need this migrate web page. No, that's it. Did I really do anything there? Let's see. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, when you do copy and paste, you don't need the body. You don't need the body here. Okay, let me go back. Let me show you real quick. Okay, we just copying and pasting. So what we need to copy, we don't need to copy the, let me show you. This is just for me to be able to see what I'm doing. It's not a needed thing. So you don't need, if I copy and paste, you see we have the body. And the body is here already. So we don't need this. We just get rid of those. Okay. And then we get rid of that. And then what we needed was this one. But remember, this one is not yet taken care of in the CSS. So we go into the CSS and see if we can get that thing working for us. Okay. So let me see here. I read some. Okay. Double. All right, see here, I'm getting a little mixed up. Okay, let's see here. Okay, we want to be able to style everything in the quotes. This one. We're going to style it. Let me copy what we have here. Want to be able to change that stuff. Good. Okay. Let's run it first and then see what it does. Go back here, get rid of this. Remember this, we don't need that. And this one is just there. This is going to be a duplicate. So body, and then we don't need that. Okay.
Migat,
Yeah, please.
maybe along the way, I have a question of how you can add an icon to a web page.
An
in
icon.
CSS. Yeah.
Okay. So like when you say an icon, like an icon could be, of course, it's considered an image.
Yeah. Oh, it's considered an image?
Yeah. All icons will just be same as image. Yeah? Okay. So
They belong to libraries or something?
So almost like your picture, you take your
Uh-huh.
then you want to add it to your web page. or you can decide you call it an icon. That's an icon of your web page. That's going to be your picture.
Okay.
So it's adding an image using a CSS. Okay, I'll show you here.
Okay.
And maybe she can also read through the bootstrap.
Yeah, you can also do Bootstrap, but Bootstrap will probably be, Bootstrap is a framework for CSS. I really encourage you, you probably want to go that direction after you master this CSS. And then
Okay.
go the Bootstrap way. The Bootstrap will probably be too easy until you feel like you got it, only to realize that there's certain things you might be missing. So let me show you this one first, and then I'll show you how you can add an image, but you can do it through CSS. Okay. So if you did this here, you basically just save it. Okay. Let's go ahead and run it first, and then see what it does. Okay. Okay. You just go ahead and refresh. Look what it does. We just got this one. Okay. Based on what we just added. Now remember, we've not even formatted anything yet. We do not format the double quote. But if you go back in here somewhere, this you can mute. Okay. If you go in here, okay. If you go in here, we are going to copy that, and then we use that to help us format the CSS aspect of what is actually here. So we copy that, and then we bring it up here. You can use the same CSS just to paste it in here. So this is the tag, and this is the internal of that tag. So the internal, remember every tag you always have to close it. If you don't close it, then you might get some errors. Okay. Lucy, you
Yes.
probably want to mute. Okay, so when you come here, once we save that, okay, save that, and then we go back to the content page. Okay. Let's assume we save it again, and then you go here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and refresh. You might not be able to see anything, but these are now going to be affected. Okay. Can you mute Lucy? Is that Nancy? I'm gonna mute you if I hear background. So let me know. Okay, that's good. Now we've already added the styling for the back for the block quote. This one right here. Now, once we did that, we went ahead and refreshed the page. But now, based on what we have, that will only be affected if it's something different from what we had already mentioned before here. Okay. So if you wanted to add, based on what Nancy asked, you wanted to add, say, okay, that's not right. You wanted to come and add Okay, you wanted to come and add an image. Say image img, okay, and then crc, that's the source, equals to, let's say this is Paris, France. It's a JPEG, JPG, okay, and then we just have an alternate Paris. Alternatively, we can say title Paris. Okay. This one, we have to make sure we have that image local to us. So I'm going to go ahead and save the image. Save it on the desktop. And then come here, save this one. Save the changes always, and then you come back here and then refresh. See what happens on the screen. So we have Paris, France. But you might not be very excited about how it looks. Okay? What do we need to change? So we can come here and then say, hey, you can actually make this image have a certain style. So you can do that by going back to your CSS styling. So let's go ahead and style our image here. So image is for IMG. If you look here, this is IMG, this is a tag, right? So image is IMG, and then look, we want the border to be, the border will be what you see here, that line, that's the border line, okay? We want to be able to affect the border. So we say, we want to make the border to have only 1 pixel solid, and the D is going to be white. DDD is white. Border radius, again, is going to be 4 pixels. And then the padding, and then the width. Now, some of this you can actually look online and see what border radius or padding is or width is. But if you want, I can also go into that detail for you. Okay. Now, once we do that, always save. So we go back here and then save. And then now let's go ahead and refresh. Look at what's going to happen to that image. The image is refreshed, but you'll never see any big change. But if you look, if you know what you're looking for, you should be able to see the difference completely. Okay. Okay, let me see. I hope I'm recording. Okay. Okay, so that's how you can add, and remember, you can call this an icon. It depends on what you want it to be, really. You can decide, hey, let me make it a little bit more different. So you can come here and say, hey, we just want to make the radius 50%. So that means we are going to go ahead and do that here. And then make changes here. And then you just basically save it. Once you do, come back here, refresh, let's see what happens. It will not be very apparent to you, but it's actually changing certain things. So you can even decide to change the border radius to 8, let's say 8 pixels. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this one for now, so we can concentrate on this. Save it. And again, this will sometimes depend on your browser. Some browsers might need tweaking, like Internet Explorer used to be a big problem. So if you save that, then you come back here and you refresh again. You might not be able to get much, but there's certain things which are happening in the background. So you can change the size, okay? Sometimes the size maybe might be able to tell people this is actually a an icon. So the size width is 50. Padding. Save that. Refresh. Keeps on changing. I mean, it keeps on doing the same thing. I'm not really sure if you're getting. Sometimes you probably want to refresh your browser so you can look if there's any difference. Yeah, but you see what I mean. You can change so many things around here. Okay. So we come back here. This is just read this from page 55 to 71. I believe it's all about HTML and CSS. All this we've done. Now, these are the elements of the ID. The ID we talked about. Now remember, although in the last examples we created an external file, which is a CSS, this is not always necessary. You can include your style sheets directly in the header, the way we did in inline. Okay. Then here, you can affect a particular section of your paragraph or of an element if you can only give that element an IDE. So that IDE is what you need, what you will need in your style sheet to be able to target a particular area or a particular zone. Okay? So here we'll be able to do like text shadow. You can, if you want, we can do this so you can see how it works. So it just come style, make the style from the style here all the way to here. So we just copy that, only the content of that style. Then we come here. Okay. Okay. Sometimes you really want to watch out for conflict. You don't want to do H1 twice if you don't need to, because it's going to affect some other content in the system, in your web. So here we are going to go ahead and say all the H1, we want them to be in shadows. We want it to be in shadow. So that's what I got from here. So when we come here, we just basically say, this is going to be the title, and then we are going to see whatever that H1 is going to be bringing us. So we come back here, we look what is being affected by H1. So we save that, and then we refresh the page. Might not be apparent, but depends on your browser. You can have different styling done on your web page. Okay. Let me see if we have any H1 to be affected here. Okay, we can have, let's see if we can have this one affected by H1. Okay.
Migot,
Yes. Go ahead.
from where you were, like the page where
Mhm.
you're trying to change,
Yeah.
how will you differentiate what is an inline and block element?
As in CSS.
Yes.
Okay. So if I did inline,
Mm-hmm.
if I did, you see this one right here, for example, the declaration we did here, these are going to be internal. They're internal to the HTML file. Okay. You
Okay.
understand? This
How do you identify that?
yeah,
Or what makes it be
yeah,
that?
that's what I'm explaining. So
Okay.
here you see the style. Okay, we declare it up between the header tags. Okay, now this will be internal. Okay, now if you want to affect only this one here, let's say only the legend, we can say, let's go ahead and do a div. Okay, and then we say, let's go ahead and do a div here. So we say div, and then I say align. Okay, and then I say equals to, and then I say center. I close that. This one, we don't need to close it there, but we need to affect this one. So we close it here. Anything, this thing is so notorious. Let me see. Okay. Anything inline will be affecting only that particular area. This is inline. Okay. But if I declared it and then I put it up at the head, then it will be internal. So this inline only affect a particular area where I target it to affect. Is that clear?
Okay.
It sounds like it's not yet clear, is it?
Not yet. Please repeat again. I'm trying to process.
Okay, so you see here, this is the sum box stuff, right? And then
Yes.
we have a div, it's just for division, but we are going to align this text to be centered, okay? And then we come here and then we want to be able to just limit to this text, so we close it at that point. This is inline, is in within a particular targeted tag. So it's within that particular tag. It's not outside or in the head. But if we did in the head, like this one, that's going to be internal. So this one means it's inline. You can even go ahead and actually affect only, let's say, we only want to affect, let's you want only affect, copy that. We can say, hey, whatever you do with that P, okay, P, we only want it to be able to only affect this area of that P. So we can say P, and then we say style equals to we can go ahead and say this would be a typical example of how we can affect that particular area of the paragraph. And then we go in here and terminate that. Okay, that's a problem right there. Okay, so we can terminate.
Okay.
So this will be inline, and it's not going to be, the inline affect only a particular area within that paragraph or within that element. And whatever you declare up at the head will not affect it, but it will be only affected by the one localized to it. Is that clear?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. All right. And of course, you remember external. External will be coming from outside. We have to.
Yes.
All right. So,
I have a question.
yeah.
A question.
Go ahead.
Like, for example, just demonstrate using the image you have just inserted on the web page. Like I see some of the websites, they have got like the it's like Eclipse is like oval, like the image is how it's somehow round, and there is an image that has been inserted like do you really do you try to figure out what I'm trying to say?
I think I know what
Like you have
yeah, but John, some of this you'll have to try on your own because I mean I cannot show every example.
okay.
But if you go to W3 schools, they have like we call those border radius. You can change the round edge or change the rounded image. So it's and let me show you what you're talking about. You see that? You're talking about something like this.
Yes.
So that's why I
Yeah.
really encourage you to go to these websites and then do them by yourself. I myself, I'm
Okay.
just gonna give you the idea and how to go about it, but you have to go to
Yeah.
example and then run them. Is
Yeah.
that fair? Okay.
Yeah. That's good.
But
Thanks.
if you go to this website, you're gonna get a ton of information. And you can ask me, feel free to ask me and I'll point you the direction, but I cannot show you how they get this one. So that's gonna take a lot of time from each
Okay.
person. But there are certain ones which I'll be more than glad to
Okay.
point us to get. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So here,
Thanks.
still covering the same thing. This is again, this is gonna be your reading, like text shadow, 2 pixels, and what all that means and what really happens when you do that. Sometimes it might not work the way you want it, but the way I did or the way I normally do mine, I try to have more than one type of browser. Different browsers behave differently. You can have Firefox, you can have Chrome, and you can have maybe one of those Microsoft products. And then you try. You'll be able to get an answer from one or all of them, but you'll be able to see they're all behaving different. That's why when you design a website, you have to be able to consider that. It has to be across the board, like for everybody. Okay, if they're using Explorer or if they're using Internet Chrome or they're using Firefox. Okay, so we come here. Now this is how you will be able to even make things change your color and even the drop shadow. Okay, you can do that. How can you do that? Like the way they did here. You can use your styling. Your styling will be able to affect stuff. We can do this so you guys see how it works. I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste real quick. So let's see. Okay, let's see here. Go back. I'm gonna open a new page. You see, when this example, some of them will not be very specific to doctype. Doctype is very specific to HTML5. But if you look, this particular book I'm using is very specific to the older HTML, but that in this case does not really matter at all. They still will be able to work for us. So we do HTML and then we go to head, then we go to style. Then we go to P. P will be, we want to make that color, make the color blue. Okay, and then we make the text aligned. We align that text to center. And then we go ahead and basically close that tag. And then we open a new one. Say H. H2. See how working with an IDE like this will be very helpful for you. You really stand a very high chance of making very less, very minimal mistakes. You can decorate for decoration. Then you underline that. That's going to be a decoration. Then you go ahead and do the text align, center. Okay. And then you go ahead and do the color, make it red. So as you can, if you're familiar with some high-level programming languages like C or in Python, and I'm sorry, C or PHP or C++, CSS tend to take some of the cues from there, like the semicolon and the tags. Okay, so when you come here, this time around we are declaring an IDE. That IDE, we call it my tag. Okay, we do the same thing. We can go ahead and just say, hey, declare this IDE, and that IDE we are going to give it a text alignment of, so you can say here, it auto completes for you. Okay, we just say center. I can do that center. So you can do a big program within no time just by the fact that it auto completes for you. So then we need this screen. Okay, and then we go to the next one. We do H1. Okay, in the H1 we want to say text. Give it a shadow. Okay, and then you say 2px is 2 pixels. And then space 2 pixels. And then you give it a color 0, 0, 0. And then FF, always close with that semicolon. And then we're done with the styling. So the styling here is done. So remember, you can run this, but it's not going to do anything because it's not going to give you any output. So we have to include our HTML. Our HTML, we start with title. Okay, so we come in. Okay, and then we come with the head. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste the rest of this. Just cut down on the time it takes to type everything, but I'll explain. We paste this one. So this is where the body starts, and then we're gonna do the H1 on the migrate web page. Paragraph is example text for a paragraph, and then we create 2 breaks, and then we do the second H2, which is second header 2, and then we create. Remember, we create an ID. That ID is actually the one up here. This is how we declare an ID. And this is how you're going to use it. So let me go ahead and save so that we can get a color coding. And then it's going to be more visible. So we say here, okay, color coding. That's the name of my file, HTML. Save it on the desktop. That's good. Come back here. So it's already saved for us. All right. So my tag. Text align, test align, not alignment. See, it's giving a highlight if there's an error. And then here we have the tag ID, tag header. So once we save it, again, we made changes. Then we go back here. Okay. Okay, let me go bring the browser back. Okay. Content. This is it. So if you look on our page, this is a code we just designed. Now we are able to style it. And this is what it looks like on the right. So we have migrate web page, which is that. And then this is just H1, but H1, we went ahead and say for H1, we wanted to have a shadow. That shadow, we wanted to have top and right. PX at the top and then PX at the right as we go around. So we can even say, if we put like more 2PX, again 2PX, that's gonna be all round. But we only need 2. Okay, so PX. What if we do, let's do, see what it does. 2PX. Normally in CSS, this one, first one means it's at the top. This one, second one, is, say again. You have a question?
No.
Okay. Okay, so you probably might have read this. So first, it's going to be top. Second one is going to be on the right. Third one is at the top, bottom, and then the fourth one is going to be on the left. Starts from top, going right clockwise. Okay, so let's save it again and see what it does. Bring it, refresh. So it's all round. But if we remove those two, then it's going to be only top and right. Okay, that's good for now. So right now, this one here. So, any question before we proceed?
George, I had a question about the image.
Okay.
Yeah, so I tried doing the same on a previous CSS that I was creating. And what happened was when I tried to resize the size of the background, so I set a background image, and when I tried to resize the background image size to cover the whole template that I had created,
okay,
it disappeared. So I tried to Google that, and they will say that, okay, maybe it's the image size that I was using. So I changed the image size to a larger image, but still I was facing the same issue. Do you know what could be the cause of that?
you have like a screen to share?
Let me see. Let me share that real quick.
Did you say the image is background image?
Yes. So I was changing the image background size. Let me share my screen here.
Stop.
Hold on, I need to change some settings here to allow me to be able to do that. Okay, so I'm sharing. Let me know when you can see it.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so it's this here. So this was the code. This was pretty much the tags that I had written for. It's a different project from what you had done for us, from what we had done about HTML and stuff.
Okay.
So what I had done was this one here.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the HTML document I had created.
Yeah.
And this one here is where I was trying to create the background image. So the image here, initially I had a different image. And when I added this CSS on there,
mm-hmm.
it will remove the image completely.
Okay, background size cover.
Yes.
If you don't add that, then it doesn't affect anything, right?
Yes. So before I added that, so I initially when I was doing this tutorial, so okay, let me see if let's see if I did that.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen was the image will still show. Let me see if that happens still.
Okay.
It's not showing up right now. So what will happen was on here, on this top banner here, so the image will be here. It will show up on here.
Okay.
And it will be replicated to cover the top. So instead of doing that, what I wanted to happen was just have a single image stretched out to cover the whole top. But it pretty much disappeared whenever I did that. Whenever I added the background cover size to cover, whenever I added that tag to cover the whole background.
Okay, so looks like you might attribute like or something like that. Let me share with you again background.
Okay.
See here. I'm gonna share with you something which can also help. It's a Stack Overflow. I think it's a problem somebody had before.
Okay.
Look, I've shared with you at your own time. Look at that and see how they went about.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that can probably help. You probably want to make it fixed so that you might think like it's removed it, but it's probably covered. So you want to make it like strictly at a particular area whereby it's going to be fixed.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right, thanks.
Look at that. Let me know if it works.
I will.
Thank you. Okay. All right. We have any other question? Okay. All right. Let's proceed here. Okay. So having looked at this one, I mean, what when you see this, what do you think we need to do more so we can understand it? Like, this is a tag which probably we might not be able to touch, but if you practice it, then you'll be able to know this is is for pre-formatting. And then this is how you can import a file. It's an HTML file, but you have to put it somewhere in HTML. So it has to be within the header tags. So it has to be here. Okay, and then now we're talking about the elements. We did that, and then let me go back here, see if I can bring back my. Okay. So we have types of IDE. This is an IDE declaration in CSS. We did declare, but remember we give you the attribute. Okay, we say, okay, we want you to be looking like this. We want it to be green, and we want it to align in the center. And your name is going to be my tag. Okay, so we come here and we say my tag is an ID. The IDE of my tag is going to affect hello from vacation, for example. Yeah. Okay. You probably want to mute, John. Okay. So once we do that, then we come here and say tag header. It's going to be the same. So this makes your work easier if you wanted to make any changes to your content. You just go into your CSS files and make the changes to affect. You can affect even 100, even 1,000 pages. So your CSS has to be looking good in order for you to be able to manipulate that. Now, having said that, assuming that it works, okay, we can come back here and you see how we affected that, and then how we also affected that. Those are actually.
George, I don't think you're sharing your screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Let me go ahead and. Well, that happens to me all the time. I forget, especially when I stop sharing. So let me go bring it back. Okay. So here we are talking of my tag, and this is my tag. This is our IDE. This is our IDE. It's going to affect the header. It's going to affect the paragraph up there. So header number 2 and paragraph. So if you come here, how do we do that? We come here and then we look at my tag. This is my tag. My tag, it has to be centered and it has to be green. Okay. So let's look at what is centered and it's going to be green. Those are the ones which are going to be affected by that code. So we go back here, color coding. So we see here, refresh. How come it's not green? It's only showing me red. Any ideas? Anybody can help? Is the color really green or red? It's my tag. But it's taking H2, which is this one, the third header or the second. Let me see here. Okay, the third header should be red. And then this one, hello from vacation land, should also be red. But you see, hello from vacation land is not showing red. Why is that? Any idea? Is there any reason why this is not red? This one right here. Hello from vacation land. So come back here. Okay, so here. Any idea? This one is working, H2, but this one seems not to work. Hello from vacation land. Because it's supposed to be green, but it's not showing green in the third one. So let me go back here. It's showing red. H2 is working. H2 is working because this is H2 here. But this is not working. It's supposed to be taking this color, green. Okay, I'm not really sure, but let's see here. Let's change that one to H1. sometimes acts very weird. So let's see here. So this one is being affected. So this one is red, this one is red. Okay. Low convocation one. So H1, H3. Okay. 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 Bear with me 1 second. Okay, looks like it's good now. Now what we needed to do, if you do the declaration here, you probably wanna batch them all in one. Like if you did that, you probably wanna make sure everything you're going to affect that tag with is in one, it's all in one block. If you don't do that, sometimes it can be very confusing, especially if you're using H1 and then my tag, and then you use like this one here. So it will only take, CSS only take, I believe, what comes first. And then whatever come after that, it basically ignores it. So we had to do that. If you can see, this should be green now. That's what we needed to do. Okay, so that's good. So we go back here. Everything good? Are we together? Okay, so we have the element and then we have the ID selector. We just did one ID, and as you can tell, we did the my tag ID, which is working good. And then the element selector will be, how do we select a particular element? Okay, now, although in the last example, we created an external file, which is whatever we did. Now, an element select is like we did in the previous lesson, which we probably did before. Now, what is an element, first of all, in CSS? So let's understand what an element in CSS is, and then we'll be able to break it down. Okay. Okay, now an element selector in CSS, I'm going to share this particular information so you can see. Okay, for example, we have this as a style. Now the P for paragraph, and then we say the background is going to be the color yellow. Now select and style all P elements. This means every P element will be background yellow. So we're basically selecting an element selected that particular background for all the elements falling under P. Okay, that's how we define the element. So this is the element, the P, and this is the CSS declaration, which is the selector. Okay. Okay, now we go back here. So we know what this element is, and then we know this is going to be what is going to be affecting that. So we need this to be color blue, and we need all the text in within the P elements to be aligned center. If it's H2, we probably want to be able to say the text decoration has to be all underlined and the text aligned has to be centered, and make them all red. Okay. That's self-explanatory. Now, when you come here, you basically say, instead of doing like for individual elements, we can go ahead and declare one IDE, and then within that IDE, we go ahead and say what we want it to do. Text, align them all, and then color, make them all green. So we just call the IDE where we want it to be able to affect, and then we put the wordings there. Same thing right down there, for the same thing. So they use a lot of examples, which again, we love to be able to type in and practice. Okay. So having said this, anybody having any question or any difficulty you might think we might need to cover in this regard?
No, I think for me it's just practice.
Practice will make perfect. It's all this, I would probably go back in and just type them one by one. And then, of course, other than the IDE, we have the Css class, which I'm going to cover with you now. Now here we are going to be able to see how we can move from the classes, like we just did, from the IDE to the classes, like we just did. So classes are more advanced, okay? So we are going to introduce them here by saying we can declare a class. This is how you declare a class. You put a dot and then my class name. And then you put the attributes here. If you were to do IDE, then remember we put hashtag there, and then the IDE, and then the attributes there. So what's the difference? Now let's find out. The beauty with the class is that you can say, we can put P for paragraph dot my blue class, and then we declare the class and the color. So we can apply it to specific tag. We can apply it to like paragraph tag the way we did it here. This example set the font color of any paragraph marked by my blue class to be blue. To specify that a paragraph in your HTML file is a member of this class, then you can come here, you say class. So once we declare this is going to be the CSS, but this is how we actually call it within. This is how we call it within HTML. So let me go ahead and show you how this works. I'm going to call back the type as we go. Okay, so here, sorry. Okay, we can go ahead and say this one. We call it P, and then class, and then we say equals to my blue class. It works the same way you do the IDE. It's just a little bit more advanced, and it allows you to do chaining, like the P dot class, for example. So here we can say my blue class. And then we go back here and say that. So we say this is a simple paragraph that uses my blue class CSS. So this is a simple class that uses my blue CSS class. Remember, always close the tab. So here, it's going to be able to close for us, so we don't have to worry about that because we're using a good IDE. Once we did this, we have to go back up there and make sure that we declare the p dot my blue class. Okay. And then you say color. Say blue. Always at the end, put semicolon. So let's go back and see how this works. So we have to always save it first. And then we come here, refresh it. See how it's my blue. What if we don't want the color blue? You can change this one to pink. Okay, save it. Go back here, refresh. That's how you can declare a class in your CSS. Now you can even decide to go deep and understand the big difference between, if you want to work with a big, like with a lot of pages, you can declare your classes than declaring IDEs, because a class will enable you to, for example, you can use this one. It's going to be center. Center will be all for blue, all for text, and they'll be centered and they'll be all being blue. Then you can apply this to multiple elements. Okay, this one. How do you apply the multiple? You can apply it to H1, to P. You know, you can H1 class that. Okay, and then you can do that the way they do it here. You can even do it with a P if you say. You can even do, if you want to do it specifically for H1, just H1.center, or you can do P.center, and then it will be able to do that. Now this produces what you see down here. Okay, this one produces what you see down here. Another normal paragraph. Okay. So that's pretty much the big difference between a class and an IDE. I'm sorry, ID. Okay. Any question? Please ask me questions so I know we are on the page, same page. Lucy. Well, Lucy,
I'm okay.
you ask me questions. Do you have any questions? You've done this before?
No, so far I'm okay.
Okay. Nancy, you have any question? Violet, you're so quiet today.
No, I'm so fine.
Okay, you're very fine. That's good.
Because I have no questions, but practice. That's what will make the difference.
Yes, practice makes perfect. But I can tell you, and I can guarantee you, this is easier. If you practice, you might get a lot of interest in doing it. Okay. So we just typed in the classes. Now these are fixed attachments. Now, in the fixed attachment, like on a particular page, it's almost like it's going to be there fixed. That's exactly what it means. Okay. Now, in other words, when you scroll the page, the element will always remain in place. It's fixed, while the rest of the page scrolls past it. Okay, we will use web page from previous lesson. That's probably something we can do, but let me go ahead and just use the New York thing, the Paris thing. So we're gonna change the body here for the Paris, and then we call the Paris. Okay, let me see. Okay, so this is gonna be the Paris. So we're gonna go ahead and use this as an example, but our code will be different. So we're gonna come back here. Okay, in the body, we have the left margin, which has to be set at 200 pixels. From the left, it has to be 200 pixels. And then the background has to be this baby blue color. And then we have the flower. Instead, we have a Paris. Let's put this Paris. And then we are now going to repeat the top left. So we are going to stretch it. Joseph, this might be able to also factor into what you're trying to do. And then you have the background attached, fixed. So we save it. We don't have any body. So we save this one. Hopefully it's going to work. Okay, and then we come back here, refresh it. So if we were to scroll the page, we want this one should be just remaining where it's supposed to be. But I might be using a wrong code here. Let me go see what we want to do. We change that CSS. It's actually pretty simple. We only need to change the CSS body. So that's all there is to it. So if we did this and we were scrolling, okay, let me change the position of this Paris image. Is Monica in the call? She's so quiet. Monica, are you there? She probably just logged in and walked away, huh? Funny. Okay, so here, you can go ahead and instead of having this Paris down here, let's go ahead and put it somewhere up there so we can scroll. Okay. It's supposed to be like we can scroll all this text, but they'll be passing Paris as the Paris text. It's going to be there. So that's what we meant by fixed. I'm not really sure if this is still being supported though. But if it is, then we should be able to get that. But that's pretty much the whole idea. Like you can sometimes see like a web page with fixed images, but the text scroll past it. For some reason, I'm not able to imitate that here. But do you guys get the idea?
Yeah.
No? Let me see if I can get an example here.
We got.
Yeah.
Is that the same as if you want to resize the web page, like if you're sideways,
Okay.
where the image does not, yeah.
That's going to be responsiveness.
Mm.
Huh? But this one will be like an image fixated on a page. When you scroll down, it's just there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let me see if I can get you some example here. Fixed background image. Example. Okay, I got an example here for you. Okay, let's look at this one here. Might not be. You see, like that image is just there, but I scroll down. You see that? Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at the the left side, it's actually telling us the background image is a URL, which is a tree. This is the name of the image, but the background is going to be repeat, no repeat, and the background attachment is fixed. It's the same thing we just did. For some reason, it couldn't work for the New York thing. Maybe because there's some other code affecting the main code. So if you look, let me go back and share again. If you look here, we have the same image in my code here. This is for New York. Okay. And then, let me see. And then we come, what really makes the big difference is gonna be the body. How did you do that? Is it color coded? Okay, this one here. I think I might have been on the wrong thing. Maybe not. Okay, if you see this, it's gonna be the same thing. This one, top left, all that. So margin. Okay. So it's the same thing. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. If you scroll, you see the scroll goes, but the image is not being affected. So that's a fix. Okay. So that's what they actually meant by this one here. Okay. Okay. Looks like that's it for HTML, CSS session for today, and we will talk again about it when we start doing our projects. I open it for questions now.
Malim,
Yes.
hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Just a clarification.
Okay.
When you are adding the logo onto your page, should you add it on the header part or on the body where the navigations are?
When you say hide, what do you mean hide? Or
The header, like see, on the, we have got the HTML tag, then you have got the header, then under header there's a title, then so I was asking, is it recommended to put the logo, the website for the logo on the header or on the body?
okay. The logo is going to be part of your HTML file. Okay, so your logo will always have to appear within the body of the HTML. Now the header, you can only put other files coming in like the style sheets or the JavaScript, or you can put the meta tags in there. Meta tags will be like, if you want a website to contain some keywords, that's what you put in the header.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Is that clear?
Yeah, clear.
Any other question?
I have an addition, like just something that I came across.
Okay.
And it says the order of precedence. So CSS has three.
Mhm.
So first one is the more specific the selector, the higher the precedence. ID is more specific than class, and class is more specific than the element.
Yes.
Number two is if no style is specified, elements inherit styles from their parent container.
Correct.
Number three is all else being equal, the last declared rule wins.
The last
So
declared is there.
I thought it would be important.
Yeah, that's very special.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I mean, if you got time, you can also share with us on the WhatsApp group, right?
Yes, I'll put that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those are very special because you know the IDE is gonna take the precedence, but if we have the class, the ID will still come up at the top. But again, if you declare an element very specific, like localized to a particular element, then it's going to take the precedence over what we bring from outside or what we bring internal to the declaration up at the top.
So is that safe to say that the inline will take precedence?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I showed you, the inline for that paragraph will take precedence
Yeah.
over what we declared up at the top.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense now.
Okay, Nancy, you got it now? Remember your question regarding the inline thing? Okay. Any other question? Anything new? Any comment? So we have another class tomorrow, our regular class. But this and the last session on Saturday was to help us get started or get an idea of what it is that is involved in CSS and HTML. So this Saturday is going to be the last Saturday, and we'll just be doing our regular Sundays. But again, at your own time, I really encourage you, if you could, get time and go through these books. They're very short, like real quick, but go as you go, do the practice. When you do the practice, it really sticks. At that time, maybe if you encounter an error, you correct it, it even sticks more. Okay. If we have no question, then I'll go ahead and call it off for tonight or today, depending on where you are. And then we resume tomorrow. Same time, it's going to be 3 o'clock on Sunday, Central.
Yes, the same time. It's an hour earlier.
It's going to be an hour earlier, 3 o'clock.
All right. For nani kesho.
2 hours earlier for me.
Okay. All right, Nancy. Okay. Any? If you don't have any question, that's fine. We can just break. I hope I recorded this one continuously, so I'll be able to share.
It says recording, so
That's
I hope it is. I just want to say thank you so much for taking your Saturdays off
no problem.
and doing this.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm glad we did this. So I also got a refresher course too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. When you start doing it, you kind of just keep going and going.
Yeah, it's very addictive, by the way.
Very,
Just
yeah.
just keep on doing it all the time because
Yeah.
you can create your music, your web page,
Yeah.
keep the family members' photos and all that you share together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially when you do it and then you start seeing it take shape.
Yes.
It's very addicting. You just want to keep doing it.
Uh,
Yeah. So let's see what we'll come up with.
Okay. Sounds
Mhm.
good. Thank you.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you. Have a nice evening.
Too. Have a good one.
Bye and have a nice evening.
You too. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.